everybody started and said, yeah, I guess we don't have to worry about bombing like some of these. So that got a lot better. Because most of the people didn't know the other time.
Yeah. Get some attention and hold it for 3 minutes and then get lots of stuff. That was really good.
Hi there, happy Friday. How's everybody doing? It's sure good to see everyone. If you'll rise, we'll have the Invocation and Pledge and the National Anthem led by our fabulous past president, Lee Waggoner.
I don't know about fabulous. Before we say a prayer, are there any issues that you would like to bring forward in terms of cares? The joys come later, you get the happy bucks time, but are there any cares that you'd like to tell us about? I think we're good there. That's all right. I got up and walked over here and Karen said, "Are you praying today?" And I said, "Yes, I am." Hey, that's okay. Let's bow our heads. Dearest Creator, we are reminded each day about how difficult life might be. How do we help the world when we are but one? Help us to remember that as we help one person, it is as if we are helping all in need, one at a time. Thank you for our public service honorees from University Park and Highland Park. These are folks who know that by helping one, they are helping many. Amen. Okay, let's place our hands over our hearts. We're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance and then followed by the National Anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mark Neese promised that it's coming up on the screen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Oh, lustily sung. Please be seated.
Thank you so much, Lee. We always start a few minutes early because we have so many different announcements for you, and so people will continue to be coming in. We're so glad to see each one of you. We have a number of guests today. If you are a guest, if you'll please stand, and if you brought a guest, if you'll introduce your guest. Past President Richard Stanford is leading the mic around.
Just going to introduce Walt Markham, my husband.
Yes. And a member as of today. so a lot of people know Walt. Yeah. Who else? Oh,
I'd like to introduce my guest, Diana Ayers. She's been a contractor and lives in the Park Cities for like 35 years. Her grandfather was a lifelong Rotarian, and Diana's interested in joining us.
Fantastic.
Welcome, welcome.
And it's great to see you, Barbara. I'm really thrilled to introduce Dr. Edney. He's with the Wellness Institute of Dallas, and so my boyfriend and I go to the Wellness Institute of Dallas. They have 3 fabulous chiropractors. They're joining today with a corporate membership. I'm so excited. Welcome, Dr. Edney.
Any other?
And now it's time for Happy Bucks. This is where you share whatever dollar denomination you'd like, $100 bill, $50 bill, $20 bill, $1 bill, $5 bill, to share whatever happy news that you have. I am really, really happy today that we have 2 fabulous people joining. We have Reverend Walt Markham joining, and we have Dr. Edney joining. I couldn't be any happier.
Thank you, Happy.
Who else has happy news? Tom does. And thank you for all your help this month. We really appreciate you. Every month. Exactly.
So those of you who were here last week know that I put up a major wager on the Dallas Cowboys.
Uh-oh.
That was a mistake. This week I'm putting a minor, let's let them rest in peace. Pick your favorite team. We knew it was going to end up this way, we just didn't know when. So this is for somebody's lunch, and may the Cowboys get back to the Super Bowl before we're all retired.
That would be great.
Or die.
Thank you, Tom.
And once again, just like last week, I get to follow Tom. So my happy bucks are obviously because of a great 49ers victory. And I think we can all agree this week that Dallas fans hate Green Bay just as much. So I expect everyone to be rooting for my Niners.
Go Chiefs.
And just to finish it up, I'm just getting crankier as I get older. I'm so glad I can just turn off football from now on. I'm done with it.
What are you going to do with all that free time?
Does that mean no Super Bowl for you? No Super Bowl for you, Richard? No.
And I'm just happy to finally be back.
We are so
After
happy
hip
to
surgery,
see you, Karen.
it's been a long time. It's good to see you all.
We're happy to have you back, Karen.
Welcome back. Great. And without any further ado, Sean Foster is going to introduce our PCR Marketplace advertiser. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Happy. For our new members and guests, what we do is we collect money, in exchange for a donation to the club. You get your name printed in the program. And so that helps the club raise money and also raises awareness of our members, both business people. And today's advertiser actually is Richard Stanford. What you may not know about the legendary Richard is he was in law for 25 years, spent 10 years as a retirement community administrator, 10 years as a staff member of the church, where he still volunteers. He didn't want me to highlight him, but I'm doing it anyway. His wife, Deborah, is a tax partner at Ernst & Young. Son, Garrett's an attorney. His daughter's a high school senior. Now, for the advertiser, many of y'all already know Highland Park United Methodist is closely tied to SMU. They've got 15,000 members. So I will give you their commercial here. They uniquely offer multiple forms of worship, including traditional, contemporary, teaching, liturgical, and a special service with those with disabilities. They also have the new Tolleson Family Center and the George and Laura Bush Confirmation Area have expanded HPUMC's ministry to youth and persons with disability. They also have, as you may or may not know, they have 3 satellite congregations, Munger Church in Old East Dallas, The Grove in North Dallas, Uptown Church, which is at the House of Blues on the edge of downtown Dallas, and they sponsor ministries from Haiti and Costa Rica all the way to areas of Dallas where they're needed the most vulnerable in the community. Highland Park United Methodist shares with the Rotary Club Park Cities the mission of serving the most vulnerable in our community. So let's give Richard a round of applause for sponsoring today.
Thank you, Richard. And our PCR Marketplace advertisers are also featured on our website and on Facebook and LinkedIn. And now our SHAWN Johnson is going to introduce our fabulous January Public Service honorees. Every month, we honor and recognize two people, a person from HP and a person from UP that has really performed exemplary service. And we have two fabulous honorees here today and a number of their friends and coworkers that are here to recognize them. Please come up, Sean.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Everyone is staying warm and staying safe. Well, we have two honorees this month. We'll be recognizing one from the town of HP and one from the city of University Park. And because I work for University Park, I must say the HP in front of the UP is no reflection of anything other than it just happened to be the way that I typed it up, all right? So, but our first honoree is Miss Holly Russell, and she is the management assistant for the town of Highland Park. Holly Russell is the management assistant to the town of HP. She assumed this role a year ago after having served as the adult services librarian in the HP library. She was recognized as a 2019 Employee of the Year for her work in developing adult programming and outreach for the library. Today, her duties include community engagement through communications and marketing, developing recreational events, employee engagement and internal communications, and administrative support to town administration. Before coming to HP 4.5 years ago, Holly was the children's librarian and community liaison for the Nichols P. Sims Library in Waxahachie, where she earned a 40 Under 40 award. And her department was designated as a family place library. She was also a member of the Waxahachie Rotary Club at that time. Other previous employment includes working in art and history museums as a curator, collections manager, historic preservationist, archivist, and nonprofit grant writer. She holds a BA in Museum Studies and Biblical Archaeology and a Master's of Library Science. Holly lives in Midlothian with her husband Tom and their 3 kids and 2 cats. In her spare time, she is often baking something in the kitchen. Hopefully she brought some with us. Reading a book or losing at video games against her youngest son and husband. Without further ado, we'd like to recognize Ms. Holly Russell for the town of HP. Stairs on this side. Well, we have stairs over here.
Oh, she's doing that.
Get a photo with
Very nice.
Congratulations, Holly.
Next, I is super excited to announce the winner of University Park's honoree, and that is Mr. Gilbert Chavez, who is the HR assistant for our Human Resources Department in University Park. Gilbert is, again, the HR assistant with the City of UP, and he has worked in various positions within the city since 2015. He first served at the City of University Park, like most great employees do, with the Parks and Recreation Department at the Holmes Aquatic Center. So if he looks familiar, you all have probably seen him some years ago. And he also worked with the Police Department and in finance. In 2018, Gilbert graduated from the University of North Texas with a BA in Business Administration. Gilbert accepted the full-time Human Resources Assistant position this past October and is the first point of contact for the Human Resources Department, and his responsibilities include coordinating the hiring process, FMLA leave administration, developing statistical data, and assisting employees. He has a passion for providing employees with the resources they need in order to effectively serve the City of UP residents. He is willing to do whatever is necessary to create an outstanding work environment and does so in a kind and professional manner. Gilbert's positive perspective and unique skill set makes him an outstanding professional who will most certainly have a long and successful career in human resources. Gilbert is a true asset to the city and has played a tremendous role in advancing the Human Resources Department to the next level. We'd like to bring up our UP honoree, Mr. Gilbert Chavez. Also like for his immediate supervisor to come up and just get the whole team up. How about we get the whole team up? You know, UP, we say go big or go home, right? So we brought the whole crew with us.
Way to go, Happy. Way to adjust.
Now, I got a glass in the way, Happy. I've got to be able to see you.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, I'm going to take two. Would you object to take your mask off just for a second so we can see you? There we go. All right.
Hold your breath.
Do one, and I'm going to do one more. Okay, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank y'all, and we would certainly love for y'all to join our club too. Jeff Sheehan, our club vice president, is going to present the membership minute. Come on up, Jeff.
Well, I was asked to come to the membership minute to kind of give my thoughts and my experiences at Rotary. But Richard, I appreciate your sponsoring because just like with our church, we believe in giving back to the community, and that's one of the great things about Rotary, which I've always known, is that it's a great group of people, all different type of backgrounds, different skill sets, and we can do so much together. And that's kind of how I've always known about Rotary. I grew up in a Rotary family. My dad, I never knew a house without Rotary. My dad was a Rotarian for 37 years. He had 32 years perfect attendance. I had 13, but who's counting? But I never knew not having Rotary through his connections. My dad was a dentist, so he always had a member, oh, this is a guy who can help me with landscaping, this is a guy who can help me with this and other things, but it was always a part of our family. I have such great memories as a kid. He was a member of the Memorial Spring Branch Rotary Club in Houston, and every year we would do the spaghetti dinners. And it was so much fun to go out and serve, and I got to be in the line and help. And then when jogging became a big thing in the 70s, they put on the Memorial Spring Branch 5K and 10K road race. I thought, this is so neat to be involved in all these things. And I saw the good that they were doing because just other things we would go to, you saw what they were doing in the community. So it gives you an opportunity with a bunch of different types of people and everyone, and it's great. And so when I got out of school, I always knew in the back of my mind I probably should do this. And it was from Kristen Lonergan, because I had looked to join Rotary right out of college, but at the time I was trying to build my career, and just unfortunately at the time it wasn't for me at that moment. But Kristen Lonergan, who is one of Bill Sleeper's lieutenants at his firm, we knew each other, and she got me to come, and so I've been here now for 19 years. So I just, I love Rotary, and we're all involved, and we're here for a reason. We want to serve and give back to the community, and that's how I got here. So.
This month's social is we're going to the Mavericks game this Sunday. It's not too late to sign up. The tickets are $24. They're great seats. Love for y'all to join us. You can purchase those online. We also are having lots of RCPC merch. You can buy the tumbler. You can buy the cap. We're gonna have the great cap for our 4th of July parade. You can wear it to any event. And we have Santa hats, blue Santa hats, that you can wear to any event in November and December. They're lots of fun, so you can sign up for that online. Check the TV monitors for additional ads. Thank you, Mark, for putting that great announcement up about all our RCPC merch. And Rob Levy is going to introduce our wonderful speaker today. Rob, if you'll come on up.
Thank you, President Happy. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to introduce another guest, Paul Scott. Paul is a retired corporate psychologist. Did I get that right?
Well,
All right.
retired, but that's what I was guilty of before.
We appreciate your being here.
Thank you. Here with Samantha.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce an organizational leader in big letters, of a nonprofit you may not have heard of before. Stress the word nonprofit. No one's asking for money today. And this nonprofit I started with back, I believe, in August, and thought my voice was fine. Guess what? Now I know why Denise always said, "What did you say? You want to do what? Can you speak up?" Well, now I speak out, thanks to Samantha Elandary and staff. And you can read Samantha's bio, beautifully written in front of you. I didn't want to waste any of her time. She's got a wonderful program. This program changed my life and does so every day. I'm in touch with this, and that's why I wanted to bring her here and share. And I care about all of you, and I'm proud to be a Rotarian. Without further ado, I want to introduce Samantha Elandary, who drove all the way from Richardson, Texas, to be here this afternoon.
Thank you all for having me today. I could really relate to the prayer that you offered today about helping one person. I think about that all the time as we help people with Parkinson's improve their speech and their swallowing, because it's not just about that one person. Everybody that person comes into contact with is affected by the work that we do at Parkinson Voice Project, because we can't go every day without eating. Look around the room. Eating and talking. 90% of people with Parkinson's are at risk of losing their ability to speak, and the muscles we use for speaking are the muscles we use for swallowing. Parkinson Voice Project is the only nonprofit organization in the world addressing the speech and swallowing issues in Parkinson's. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Parkinson's, and then I'll tell you about our clinic. Parkinson's was first medically described in 1817 by Dr. James Parkinson. He was an English physician who wrote an essay entitled An Essay on the Shaking Palsy. He published that in 1817, and the essay described 6 different people who had very similar symptoms. Only 2 of the people were his patients. The other 4 people were just people he saw walking on the streets of London, and he noticed that they might have a tremor or they were shuffling their feet, and he actually went up to them and said, could you tell me, was that tremor always in your right hand? What were you doing when it started? Have you always shuffled your feet? When did that start? Is it only a tremor in the right hand? Is it in the left hand? Is it any other part of your body? And so he wrote down the account. There are 4 main symptoms to Parkinson's. A resting tremor. A resting tremor means when a hand or maybe a leg is at rest. So if my hand is on my side or resting on the table, I might have a tremor, but when I reach up to grab something, the tremor may not be as pronounced. So a resting tremor is one of the main symptoms. Slowness of movement, impaired balance, like when walking, and rigidity or stiffness. So those are the four main symptoms. There's lots of other symptoms related to Parkinson's, but those are the four main symptoms: resting tremor, slowness of movement, impaired balance, and rigidity. And when somebody presents with at least two of those specific symptoms, if they go to the neurologist and they have at least two of those symptoms, and they try them on some medication and it helps to relieve those symptoms, then they say that that person has Parkinson's. So if somebody has a weak voice and a tremor, they wouldn't necessarily have Parkinson's. It has to be two of those four symptoms. There is no test to say that somebody has Parkinson's except an autopsy. How many people do you think want to do that? I don't think so. I heard a neurologist speak one time. He said, don't let anybody take your brain out before you're done with it, because we're really good at taking them out, but not that good at putting them back in. So basically, Parkinson's is diagnosed based on the clinical symptoms, and patients go back every 6 months to check in. I mentioned that 90% of people with Parkinson's can struggle with speech and swallowing. Something I need you to know is that humans have two motor systems. We have our automatic motor system, which is responsible for our motor movements that are automatic. So for example, when you walked in the room today, I bet that none of you were really thinking about your walking. You didn't have to tell yourself heel, toe, heel, toe. You just kind of walked in the room, sat down in the chair. Well, it's not that way for people with Parkinson's. Their automatic motor system is disrupted because the automatic motor system is highly dependent on a chemical called dopamine. By the time somebody has any symptoms of Parkinson's, they've already lost about 80% of their dopamine-producing cells. So since the automatic motor system is highly dependent on dopamine, any motor movements that used to be automatic are now disrupted. So walking, talking, swallowing, writing. When you get up from your chair, you probably just get up and start walking. Well, not somebody with Parkinson's. They would have to maybe scoot to the edge of their chair, put their hands on the, well, there are no armrests on these chairs, and they might have to tell themselves to sit up straight and to then start walking. So I said there's two motor systems. So the automatic motor system is disrupted, but thank goodness we have a second motor system, and that's our intentional motor system. Our intentional motor system is not as dependent on dopamine, so it works really well. It's a backup system for people with Parkinson's. But so many people with Parkinson's don't know that it exists. They don't really understand it. They think that Parkinson's is attacking their muscles and making them weaker. No, it's not that way. It's that the automatic motor system isn't working. But if they use intent, if they think about what they're doing, then they can do better. Rob joined our program, and I would say that he entered the program early on, which is really good. I'm going to show you two different videos. I'm going to show you Rob's before and after video. And Rob, we would say his speech was mild to moderately involved. Some people might look at his video and say, well, I don't even know why he needed speech therapy. But when you see the video and hear it, what you'll notice is you probably understand him, but you're having to listen a little bit more carefully. And then you'll see the difference after. Rob only had maybe 10 therapy sessions, maybe about 10. Well, we'll go ahead and show Rob's video. So you'll see him before and after speech therapy.
And what changes have you noticed in your speech and voice?
Well, obviously it was too soft for quite a while and becoming much more normal, able to project more and feel better about it. You wish to know all about my grandfather. Well, he's nearly 93 years old, but he still thinks as swiftly as ever. Twice each day, he plays skillfully and with zest upon a small organ. Except in the winter when the snow or ice prevents, he slowly takes a short walk in the open air each day. We have often urged him to walk more and smoke less, but he always answers, banana oil. Grandfather likes to be modern in his language. You wish to know all about my grandfather? Well, he is nearly 93 years old, but he still thinks as swiftly as ever. Twice each day, he plays skillfully and with zest upon a small organ. Except in the winter, when the snow or ice prevents, he slowly takes a short walk in the open air each day. We have often urged him to walk more and smoke less, but he always answers, banana oil. Grandfather likes to be in his language.
And now that you've completed.
Oh. No problem.
That my voice was much clearer. That took much less effort to produce something I was happy with by my new standards of how I should sound.
And what does it mean to speak with intent?
It means to speak deliberately, consciously be aware of what you're saying and how you're saying it is more important than what you're saying. And it means to be deliberate, conscious, and cautious, and paying attention, and speaking out over the hill to that audience waiting to hear me.
So you can tell a difference in his speech. The articulation was better. I wish that everybody with Parkinson's would come to our program at the point that Rob did. It's so much easier to treat if it's just mild. The key, though, is that even though Rob went through speech therapy, speech will never be automatic. It's not physically possible for it to ever be automatic because the loss of the dopamine. So it will always have to be intentional, and Rob will always be fighting against the Parkinson's progressing and the degenerative nature of Parkinson's. He will always have to keep pushing and keep trying to use intent and keep those muscles strong. But it'll never be automatic, and I can compare it to if I were to treat a child, let's say, who couldn't say her R's. My whole goal in therapy is to get that child to say their R's automatically. I don't want them to have to think about it. I want them to be able to carry on a conversation using R, and once the child finishes therapy, they won't ever need therapy again. They're done with it. But it's not that way with Parkinson's. People with Parkinson's have to have continual therapy. And that's one thing that makes Parkinson Voice Project different, is that we not only do the therapy, but we have a maintenance program where we are continually working with people. So once they enter our program, they're in it for the rest of their life. Rob, you are stuck with me, whether you like it or not. I'm going to show you another video now of 4 different patients. But what I want you to notice how their mouths, some of the patients, it's barely moving. Small movements, that's a symptom of Parkinson's. You'll notice how they trail off at the end of their sentences. Their voice might sound raspy. You'll notice an incoordination in the breathing, especially with one person. It's very, very obvious. So you'll see them when they first came to Parkinson Voice Project, and then when they completed our program, which is called Speak Out, and when they learned how to speak with intent. So we'll watch that video.
There are times I had many efforts, many attempts to get somebody else to give it upon me. And I was much stronger, much clearer, the words are more concise. I sound like a human being.
Count from 1 to 15.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
My wife has noticed it more than I, but apparently I've lost a lot of oomph
it's me talking, and it's me, only as part of this process did I learn that I had relinquished control of my voice and relinquished a significant part of my life, which is being sociable and social, and now I think I'm back in charge, or I'm on my way to being back in charge.
It's much softer and more difficult to speak. I speak louder, clearer, and with intent.
So I want you to know that the results that these patients achieved, I didn't just pick the best 4. This happens pretty much to everyone if they'll do the therapy and they'll do the practice. It was a little bit easier to see the before and after on these than Rob's. Again, I wish every person would come in at the point Rob was noticing it and it wasn't so obvious, to everybody else, because it's much easier to treat that way. But people with Parkinson's can get better. Now, Parkinson Voice Project, I started the organization. I started working on it in 1999 out of my home. I had been working at a Dallas hospital, and Medicare had drastically cut the reimbursement rate for speech therapy. Anybody in the medical field probably knows all about the Medicare therapy caps. And so Medicare was only going to pay a certain amount of therapy for a certain amount of money for physical therapy and speech therapy combined, about $1,740. This was in 1998. So people with Parkinson's were having to choose, let's see, do I want to get my walking better? Or do I want to speak better? Do I want to swallow better? And they were having to choose. And so I left the hospital and I started treating patients out of my home. And then I started Parkinson Voice Project in 2005. So we're celebrating, this will be our 17th year, 2022. We have a 10,000 square foot facility in Richardson, Texas. Since 2008, we have not charged anybody for therapy. Anybody can come to get treated at Parkinson Voice Project. We do not bill Medicare insurance. We don't have a billing office. We don't do any of that, so anybody can get treated. And the interesting thing is that during the pandemic, our reach has exploded, very much so. Before the pandemic, we were offering 14 groups a week. So somebody goes through one-on-one therapy and then they join a group we call the Loud Crowd, and they come meet with us every week. And we would do that ongoing for the rest of their life and do individual therapy in between whenever they need it. But we had to cancel all of our groups. And so I think it was the day after we closed the clinic, we started offering speech exercises on Facebook. So I thought, well, what are we going to do? Because if people with Parkinson's don't do their exercises for 2 or 3 days, their voice can start to drop. They can start choking on their food again with just 3 days, 4 days, not doing their exercises. So we started doing exercises online. I think at the beginning, there were about 30 people who were practicing with me on Facebook. And then what we ended up, we got a system on our website to do it. Now we offer them on our website, Facebook, YouTube. And the last report, about a month ago that we ran, we had 1,500 people practicing with us every single day. So it's really amazing, people from all over the world practicing and learning. So our clinic, it's interesting also with the pandemic because people have become more comfortable with technology. So a speech pathologist can treat anybody in the state where he or she is licensed. So we could always treat people throughout Texas from our clinic, but people were not comfortable with technology. And think about it, if the pandemic had only lasted about 3 months, people wouldn't be as comfortable with technology. But because it lasted so long, people were forced to have doctor's appointments online and meet with family and do other appointments online. And so now we're able to treat anybody in the state of Texas, all from our Richardson Clinic. We also in 2012 began training speech pathologists in other parts of the country. because our vision is that every person with Parkinson's will have access to this treatment. And so the pandemic, the results of the pandemic and what's happened, it has expanded. In 2018, we received a $1.3 million gift to start a grant program where we could provide training grants to hospitals, university clinics all over and teach them how to do what we do. So in 2021, we awarded 303 grants to the hospitals and universities, and we've trained over 2,000 speech language pathologists and graduate students just last year through the grant program. Where are we headed? We have a wonderful plan. It's called Our Campaign to Reach America. Now that people are more comfortable with technology, now that we can treat everybody in Texas, imagine if we had one clinic in every state that would provide online treatment. From that one clinic, they could treat every person in their state. Now, we would still want to have a speech pathologist down the street at the local hospital, so we would still do that. But the goal is to establish 50 therapy and research centers across the U.S., and every person in America would have access to the treatment, as long as they have a cell phone. They could do it. So it's a $20 million project, and part of the project was to secure Parkinson Voice Project. We can't go and help everybody else before we are secure. And so I'm happy to announce that in December, we received a $5 million gift to endow our building and the maintenance of our building. And so the project is a go. We have our lead gift. And so over the next couple years, we'll be raising the rest of the money, establishing the centers. Our 20th anniversary will be 2025. And so our goal is to have all 50 therapy and research centers, in addition to the local grants that we give. All established by that time. I brought Paul with me. Paul is one of our Loud Crowd members. He's been in our program, and if we have time, we'd love for him just to give a testimonial. He's one of our advocates, so we have a volunteer group called the Parkinson Voice Advocates. They are people with Parkinson's who have completed Speak Out, and they go out into the community and help educate other people. That's something else that has expanded through the pandemic. Now, because we host our meetings on Zoom, we can have advocates from all over, which is really neat.
Thank you, Samantha. That's so exciting about the grants and the new program you're instituting. It means a great deal to me to get to know that that's going to happen for so many more people with Parkinson's. I had the symptoms of Parkinson's I've learned this since, for 8 to 12 years before I began to have a tremor. And the tremor happened for me on the left side, and without the primary drug that's used to treat motor disturbances in Parkinson's, L-DOPA or carbidopa, levodopa, it gets really too much to say, so we call it L-DOPA. But I had a tremor that would be something like this, and it would just kind of go on, and I don't know if you can see, that was about it. Then I noticed that my left leg wasn't behaving. By that I mean it would tend to land flat when I walk. My right wouldn't be heel-toe. This was a little bit of an increase in the motor disturbances. And as Samantha said, I had to get to the point where I was having some of these motor issues before it could be diagnosed. There's no scan, there's no needle in the head, pull out some juice kind of thing, and nothing can do this except an autopsy to absolutely confirm it. But it certainly is something that takes some awareness. Now, I found the Voice Project. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in October of 2018. And in early spring of 2019, I found and began to come to the Voice Project. I was very fortunate. I had a good voice. I figured if I ever bombed out of psychology, I could make it in radio. So never had to check that one out, but I was blessed with a good voice, and I enjoyed singing a great deal. I did notice that while my voice was minimally changing, the key to the voice project, the key to the Tai Chi that I take to work on balance and motor coordination, is to slow down the progression. We're not going to stop the progression. It's an incurable progressive disorder that will continue to increase in severity. You know, when I first heard that about Parkinson's, I went through a short period of being really depressed. And then I started to meet people in my Tai Chi class and people at the Voice Project, and they were the happiest darn bunch of folks I'd had a chance to hang out with. I'm serious. And, you know, because it tends to hit people later in life, they tend to be more my age than, you know, young kids running around. We don't have a nursery yet, you know, but Samantha, you never could tell. But the wonderful thing about the Voice Project for me is not only has it been able to help me, and of course it's not a scientific thing, we can't know without that what would Paul's voice sound like because it's been with it. But I am confident that what I have learned from the Voice Project has helped me not only with my voice and being able to be aware that I need to speak clearly and loud, which takes intent, by the way. If I were to get all wrapped up in a story and start to tell you about it, my voice would deteriorate. Similarly, swallowing has now begun to be just a little bit of a problem for me. I more often will, you know, choke on a piece of food or something. So what that means is, Samantha tells me, is you're not doing it every day, are you, Paul? You know, we're going to need to be sure that, because it's just like training muscles, and it makes quite a difference. The other thing that she developed was for the intentional motor system, being able to use that for speech and swallowing. I use it for dressing, I use it for walking, I use it for being careful that I don't bang my hands into different things around the house. It's amazing the number of things you can get right if you just think about it. But as Samantha said, many of these things I didn't ever have to think about. They just were automatic. Not anymore. But I'm very fortunate. I found the Voice Project, and I also have a Tai Chi teacher who is a physical therapist working only with Parkinson's patients. So what a rich resource we have in Dallas, but it makes me all the more supportive of what Samantha wants to do in terms of making this available for folks all around. So I appreciate a chance to visit with you.
Thank you, Paul. So on your tables are brochures. There's a general brochure about Parkinson Voice Project. We also have a Parkinson's lecture series where we have video presentations on all different topics related to Parkinson's: nutrition, exercise, research, brain surgery, boxing, dancing. So if you're a medical professional, you want to learn more of those, that would be a great resource. And then there's also a flyer. On one side it has the Parkinson's webinar. I host that once a month. And that's interesting. We used to host it once a month at our clinic, and we might have 16, 20 people show up. And last time there were 92 people in the webinar, and they're probably couples. If you think about it, it's probably husband and wife. So that's so amazing what has happened. So anybody who wants to learn about Parkinson's can attend the webinar. And then on the flip side of that, the speech exercise sessions that we do. So if you know anybody with Parkinson's, sometimes people are a little bit reluctant to go out and get help. Difficulty with your speech, your communication is a very personal thing. So now you could just share that with them, the flyer, and they could practice with me online without anybody else knowing. And then hopefully that would help them to recognize that, you know what, I should call in and get some help. Or the webinar is a wonderful resource not threatening, just do you want to learn about it? And again, they can do that from their own home, so nobody else knows that they're attending if they want to keep that private. Thank you for having me, Rob. Thank you for inviting me. Rob is one of our advocates too, and so good job. You're doing a great job. That's what we need to get the word out. Thank you.
Any questions for her?
Okay.
Yes. Oh. Well, so the question is, if you catch it early, would that help in terms of the speech or just in general? So early intervention is important in terms of getting on the right medications, of getting therapy much easier. So for speech, the muscles are getting weaker and weaker and weaker because the person is not using their muscles to the full capacity. So for example, if I were to walk real small, like this, if I were to walk like that and to do that for several years, my muscles and my legs are going to get really weak. So the earlier I get treated and I learn about intent and I do physical therapy, it's going. But you can't, just because you catch it early doesn't mean it's not going to progress. It just means that if you get the therapies faster, you'll never let them get to that point. So for Paul and Rob, we're going to work like crazy to keep their voices where they are so that they never end up like the people that you saw in the other video. Because they got here early, we're going to lift it up. Now they're here, and we're going to work like crazy to keep it here instead of somebody coming in when their voice is way down here and we're struggling just to get them above water. There was a question here. Oh, yes.
Do you have, you said you're trying to establish organizations throughout the U.S. Do you have anybody in Arizona?
Yes, we do.
You do now?
We do, and if you go to our website, right on the home page, there's a button that says Find a Speak Out Provider, and that's where you can put in your zip code and find a clinic that offers our treatment. Also, interesting, our 2022 grant applications just went live on Monday. As of yesterday, we already had 81 clinics apply, and one of them was the University of Arizona. But isn't that amazing? Just in 3 days, that's how many speech clinics? Yes.
I have kind of a two-part question regarding dopamine. First of all, is dopamine something that can be measured by your doctor when they do all the measurements of all the things, your hormone levels and things? And second of all, is it something that can be created synthetically by scientists or something? So when people have a low level, can they be injected?
Okay. So the dopamine, so I'm going to answer the Parkinson's medications mimic dopamine. But if they last, let's say, 5 hours, then as soon as that 5 hours is over, if you don't take another dose of medicine, it's going to be as if you didn't have any. So there isn't a way to regenerate that. But there is a test called a Dat Scan, D-A-T, a Dat Scan, and that measures the levels of dopamine in the brain. It can't distinguish between there's regular Parkinson's and there's something called Parkinson plus disorders. So the test can't distinguish between those, but it can tell you whether there is a depletion of dopamine. And I'm just going to tell you something really quickly. This is very interesting. The donors who are donating the $5 million for the building. The woman was in our program for 5 years. She had a Dat Scan because her symptoms weren't progressing. When they did the Dat Scan, she had all her dopamine. And it shouldn't have been that way. If you have Parkinson's, they should see 80% reduction. She had all her dopamine, but she had all the Parkinson's symptoms. What they found out, she was on a medication called Abilify. that was causing the symptoms. It was blocking the dopamine receptors. So even though she had all her dopamine, it couldn't do its work. It made her look like she had Parkinson's. So it took a year. They weaned her off of all of the Parkinson's medications, weaned her off of the Abilify. She was cured. And I'm just going to tell you one thing real quickly. This is an amazing story with these donors. She had been in our program for 5 years or 6 years. These were all her friends. She was there all week, singing with them, going to group, going to dancing, going to everything. They are making this gift. This is a home for their friends at Parkinson Voice Project because they no longer need the project, but they had made all these friends. Isn't that incredible? It gives me chills. Okay, yes.
I have a doctor friend at the gym who's in a who's in a wheelchair with Parkinson's, and his speech is just fine. But he is progressing, and he said genetically there's nothing that can be done for me. Now, is there different varieties genetically of the disease?
I mean, I have not, in the past 22, 23 years, met anybody where nothing could be done about it. But I would say that everyone with Parkinson's wants to be treated by a movement disorder specialist. That is a neurologist that specializes in movement disorders specifically. I would say that physical therapy and speech therapy, you have to be treated by somebody that knows about Parkinson's. One of the reasons that we're doing the grant program is that graduate students are not learning how to treat Parkinson's. So they're graduating, they're becoming speech pathologists, and they have no clue as to how to treat the disorder. I don't know that that's his situation. There are also so many things that could happen. Some people are allergic to the Parkinson's medications. And that could be a situation where they're not able to get the relief because they can't take the medication. And in their case, then physical therapy would be even more important. So I would just say they can call our office and maybe we can refer them to the neurologist. But we do everything from home. Yeah. You'd be surprised, though, how many medical professionals don't know about the different services. So if he wants to call our office, we can maybe connect him with our medical advisory board. Maybe it would help. I don't know. I'm sorry.
All right, Lisa gets our last question.
Is it inherited? I have a grandfather and an uncle on my dad's side that had Parkinson's, so am I at risk?
Not necessarily. I think the risk is a little bit higher than the general population, but Parkinson's, researchers think, is a combination of genetics and environmental factors, so things like pesticides. You'd be surprised how many of my patients say when they were growing up they used to ride their bikes behind the DDT trucks and let anybody in here do that? Yes, over there. I'm so surprised by, I have a number of patients who say they did that all the time, let the mist hit them. I'm not saying that that's how they got Parkinson's, but also we probably have a handful of patients on staff who have parents and grandparents. It's not a large percentage, but more common would be people that grew up in a farming community or grew up in areas. Like I had a patient and the patient's father-in-law and the patient's uncle and the cousin and the brother, and they had Parkinson's, but they all grew up in the same community, even though it was his family and his wife's family. So it's a little bit higher, but not definite, no. All right, thank you. Please go to our website. Right on the home page is the virtual choir. Because we couldn't have a concert in person this year, we had a virtual choir, 368 people with Parkinson's singing with intent. It's a great video. They sing Sweet Caroline and some others. And you can take a virtual tour of Parkinson Voice Project. It's just a 27-minute video. It's really good. On the home page.
Thank you so much. That was really, really educational because we all know people that are affected by Parkinson's, and so now we can direct them to your organization.
Thank you.
Great work.
Appreciate
and a book is being placed at your honor at McShan Elementary.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank
after
you
the
so
meeting,
much.
I'd like to get a picture with you in front of our screen.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Thank you.
Next week's meeting is also going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have Leslie Clay. She is the executive director of the Warren Center, and so they do great work, and so I look forward to seeing you next week for that great program. I'm going to be sending out an email this weekend with everything that we do. So if you've been thinking, I want to do something else in the club, so what was that public image team? What are they doing? We need some more people to help us with Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. Maybe you want to join our membership team. Maybe you want to be on another service project team. So be on the lookout for that email. If you want to change teams, that's not a problem either. So just let us know because we want to make sure that you're staying fully engaged. We have a great service project this month. We really appreciate Doug Means. Doug, if you'll raise your hand. So you've been bringing these great items for the homeless veterans, and then Doug has been taking that to the VA. We really appreciate you doing that, and if you'll continue doing that all throughout the month of January, we can really make a big difference there. And now Ms. Liz Landon is going to lead us in the four-way test. If you'll please rise. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, Liz. Oh, yeah.
This is my decision. Do I put my glasses on or do I just read? Can you hear me okay? There we go. All right. The four-way test is an ethical guide for Rotarians to use. All right, I give. To use, right?
Just like me.
Why not? To use for their personal and professional relationships. The test has been translated into more than 100 languages, and Rotarians cite it at all club meetings. Please recite with me. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Yeah, you get this.
You get the bell. You hit it with the mouth.
Hit it with this?
Yes. All right.
Awesome. Way to go, Liz. Thank you. Great work.
I'll go down the stairs. All right.
Have a great weekend.